We're going to talk about how to combine like terms, how to distribute, and how to do both of those in one problem. So first we're going to start with combining like terms. So you'll see here I've got fish math pulled up on the side, and you see an example of just combining like terms. So if you look here, I'm going to copy this problem down. So -1 plus 3d minus 10d plus 4 minus 3. So we've got some different types of terms. We've got some terms that have the d variable in it, and then we've got some terms that are just constants, just a number. So -1, +4, and -3. Make sure you pull those negatives with those terms because those are necessary to go with those pieces. So then we just combine the ones that go together. So 3 minus 10 would be a -7d, just combining those d variable terms together. And then a -1, a +4, and a -3. Well, it's actually going to be 0 because a -1 plus 4 would be a +3. Take away 3 more would actually be 0. So the simplest form here is actually just -7d. If we check our answer, there it is. That's how we combine like terms. Let's do another one like that one. I'll get a little more complicated here. I'm looking for one with a little bit more variability with the letters, a little bit more letters to work with. So we'll see this example, 9 plus 10 minus 2 plus 9b plus 9c minus 6c. All right, same idea. So we've got a constant, a constant, a constant. Those are all just numbers. We've got a b term. We've got no more b terms, so just one b term. And then a c term and another c term. So the ones that go together, we put together. 9 plus 10, 19, minus 2, 17. There's no more b terms, so just add on those b terms. You got to remember that when you're making an expression, you can't have them disconnected. You can't have 17 and 9b not be connected. So if they're both positive, we just add them together to make them one expression. Putting together our c terms here, this would be 9 minus 6 would just be 3c. And any order for those pieces is totally fine. So you may see the answer here in a different order, which again is totally fine. And as you can tell, there it is, different order, all good. That's how we combine like terms. To distribute, we do something a little differently, obviously. Distributing is when we multiply in a number outside of parentheses. So for this one, 7 times 9 minus 4b, just multiply the 7 in to everything. So 7 multiplied into the 9 we'll do first. 7 times 9 is 63. And then 7 times a -4b, keep that negative on that 4. That would be a -28b. And either order is fine. So this could also be -28b plus 63, which I guess you're going to see for the answer here. There it is. That's how we distribute. Let's do one more distributing example like that. We can do these. These are a little bit trickier, but these are fine. A negative out front is just going to do the opposite of what we have inside. So that'll be basically like a -1. We can think of it as just a -1 multiplied into everything. So a -1 times a -3 would be a +3. A -1 times a 5g would be a -5g, which makes it the opposite of what we have. Either order, totally fine. And then let's just do one more distributing real quick here. -8 times -6 plus 8g, a little more complicated here. Multiply in here, this would be 48, because those two negatives multiply to a +48. A -8 times a +8g would be a -64g. Either order, totally fine, as long as you've got the same signs on each term. There it is. So the most complicated version of these kind of examples is when we put them together, distributing and combining. That's a hard one to start with. Let's start with this one. So we talked last class about how when you're doing these, you have to make sure you always use order of operations. You cannot do 8 plus 10 first, even though you see that first. We read that first from left to right, but we don't do that first. We've got to do the multiplication by the 10 first. That's being multiplied into our parentheses, which is distributing. So 10 times the 5 first, which is 50, and then 10 times the 7w, which would be 70w. But don't forget, there was still an 8 plus in front. Now we do the next step, which is what we saw first, combining like terms. Combine the terms that go together. These two are both constants, and then we've got a w term. So the constants go together, make 58, plus the w term, and we're done. 70w plus 58 in either order. So it could get a little more complicated. That one's not that bad. Let's do one more like that. So that would be -5 times 7b minus 7, all, then a +1 at the end. So again, we do multiplication first. the negative 5 gets multiplied in. That would be negative 35b. And then a negative 5 times a negative 7 is a plus 35. And then the plus 1 we bring down. Then we combine like terms, and we get negative 35b plus 36. There it is. A little more complicated if you have a little bit more pieces to it, like the next one here. Negative 8 times 7p plus 9 minus 8p plus 2. Again, multiply in first. Order of operations, have to always do that first. Negative 56p, and then minus 72 when you multiply in times the positive 9. Bring down everything else. Now we combine like terms. Put our like terms together here. Those go together, those go together. So that gives you, what is this, negative 4, oh, nope. Negative 64p, and then minus 70. Putting our p variables together and our constant variables together. That's how we do combining like terms, distributing, and problems that involve distributing and combining in the same problem.